Let's have a quick look at functions, or methods as they are called in Java. You've seen this statement quite a bit before, system out print line, but what exactly is it? Well, it's a statement in which we call a method named system out print line with a single string parameter. Here's another one. It's a declaration and initialization of a variable called 2 squared to the value 2 squared, but we do this by calling a method called math.pow that has two parameters of type double and returns a double. So mathematically what we're looking at is a function called pow from two reals into the reals. But since we can't explicitly represent real numbers in Java, we have the type double, which is a floating point type that represents real values. You should think of methods simply as named code blocks. They are defined within some class definition, and they have arguments and they have a return value. These correspond to functions or procedures in other languages. One thing I want to mention here is that the return value need not exist. So there's a special keyword called void that simply indicates that the function is not expected to return anything. When you define your own methods, the syntax looks like this. You have a bunch of modifiers, one or more. Then you have a return type, it could be void. You have a method name, which is a valid identifier. And then in brackets, you have a comma-separated list of arguments, each given by a type and another identifier to refer to the argument. And all of this is followed by code that determines the behavior of that method, in this case, only line 2. Let's look at an example. All of this happens within the definition of a class called maximum demo. Let's look at the method called maximum that's defined in line 3 all the way down to line 8. It's a function that returns the maximum of two integers. Public and static are modifiers. Int is the return value. Maximum is the name or identifier. And these two here are two arguments of type int named a and b. Here we have another method defined in the same class. It's a main method. We have public and static. These are our modifiers. We have void, which is the return type. Main is the identifier. And we have a single argument of type array of string. Now, what does this example main method do? It simply gets two integer values, x and y, in line 9 and 10, and then it calls the method system out print with one string parameter, because all of this here is one big string value. Notice that we use plus for the string concatenation. And finally, here in line 14, we are calling our newly defined maximum methods from the slide before. A method is uniquely identified by its signature. Its signature is the name for the combination of all modifiers, the spelling of the identifier, the types and ordering of the parameters, as well as the return value. Here are 5 methods that are all different. They all have different signatures. Let's look at why they are different. The second one is different from the first because the identifier is different. Remember that Java is case sensitive, so a capital X is different from a lowercase x. The third one is different from the other two because its second parameter is of type double, whereas previously we had only integer arguments. The fourth one is different from especially the third one, because although we have an integer argument a and a double argument b, the ordering is different and ordering matters when it comes to the signature. And finally, the last one is different from all the other ones because we are missing a modifier static here. Here's another example that has the same signature as the one in the first line. And this is because the identifier of the parameter doesn't really matter when it comes to the signature. So here the first identifier is called B and the second is A, whereas in the first method it's the other way around. But because they are both integers, the signature is the same. Finally, let me mention the main method that we've seen a couple of times now. In fact, this is a method like any other. So it has an identifier, it has a return type, etc., etc. But it is special in the sense that when you start the interpreter and give it a class to execute, when you start your program, then the interpreter will look for a method called main with exactly this signature. So the interpreter will look for a public static void method called main that has exactly one parameter of type array of string. Speaking of the parameters, you can actually access the parameters using the square bracket notation because it's an array just like any other. So what this program actually does is it reads the first argument given on the command line and uses it to create a greeting message. So if you compile and run this program, for example, in this way, Java hello, and then give it two parameters, Patrick, Totske, what it will print is just hello Patrick because the first argument is Patrick and the second argument is simply not used in this piece of code.